Welcome to the SCV's Voice of Business. Nice to be with you. I am your host, Corey Nathan, and this is where we talk about business in the Santa Clarita Valley, the SCV. Go figure. I love it. Jamie's already getting into it. We really talk about business all over this country, but a lot of the business owners and business leaders and other community leaders we'll be speaking with will be from right here in our hometown, the Santa Clarita Valley. Sometimes you don't just stick to business. We talk about leadership and management, life, and anything else where the spirit takes us. So remember, subscribe if you haven't already, or follow whatever your app lets you do. Tell a friend, and definitely, biggest thing is, if you like what you hear, definitely leave us a rating and write a review. Those written reviews really do make a huge difference so that more folks can learn about these awesome people and awesome businesses that we're going to be talking about, and maybe we can be talking about your business in the near future. It all helps get the word out so more people can participate in these conversations like the one we're having today with Jaime Annett, the founder of Thermal Horizons, and Ben Benedetti, also a founder and the chief Thermal Horizons enthusiast. Jaime, Ben, so good to be with you guys. How you doing?
Amazing. Corey, thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to be on your podcast today. It is such a pleasure as a small business owner. I think a lot of people don't realize when you have a brick and mortar, the grind, so it's really nice when we get these opportunities to spotlight our businesses here in Santa Clarita. So thank you for allowing us the opportunity.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Ben, you doing all right?
I'm doing great. Thank you.
Oh, that's
Let's
awesome.
get after it, Corey.
Let's get after it. You said the grind. You guys had more of a grind than normal. I mean, First of all, historically speaking, you set up shop. Like, when did you get that space is awesome, by the way. So when did you get that space? It was like the worst date in history that you could get it or something, or?
No, honestly, I mean, here's the deal. I think it was all timing and divine intervention. I'll talk a little bit about the story, but my mom had stage 4 ovarian. I had a big, beautiful corporate job that took care of all of the things in healthcare, dentistry specifically. And my mom got cancer, and it rocked my world. I had a few other personal things go on with pets and a few other personal issues. So I was really in, a really sad state of affairs, emotionally, spiritually, and physically. And, honestly, my mom switched from chemo and radiation. She decided chemo wasn't her truth. It was right when COVID broke out. Chemo wasn't her truth. And she decided to switch over to palliative care. And when she switched over to palliative care, it was right during that time you couldn't get near a hospital. It was 56 city blocks of insanity. The right hand didn't know what the left was doing. Was COVID going to kill us all? Nobody knew. So I have a sound healing studio in my home. So I would take her back to my sound healing studio and we would sound heal. And it certainly was going to cure her cancer by any means. But what it did do was create a state of homeostasis. She was able to meditate, be open, work through a lot of the fear. She was leaving this earth. And about 4 months in, it's like the fight was over, and I had to come to the realization that my mom was leaving this planet. And it was really hard. Yeah. So as we would lay there and we would just sound heal, we just kind of came up, and it was when everything was kind of crazy in Santa Clarita. It wasn't just COVID. There were a lot of other political happenings here, and we were all stuck in our homes, so I would lay my mom down, we would sound heal, and we just kind of manifest, Mama, what would we do for our community if we could do anything at all? And we just kind of manifested thermal. It was a daydream, no plans, no big ideas, but it kind of kept her in the here and now. And we just kind of did that. And I realized about, 4 months in, when I had that moment of clarity that my mom was leaving this earth, that manifestation was the last gift that my mom and I were going to give each other. And so that's when I really started talking seriously to Ben, like, okay, so how do we do this? And Ben and I were coming back from a camping trip. Where were we coming from, honey? I know we were on the 126, but we were coming back from somewhere.
I think we had spent the week. I think that's the weekend we had spent at Avila Beach. And
was it Avila?
Yeah.
Okay. So we had come back from camping and we just started, I'll never forget. It was on the 126. We just started, talking about how we could make that a reality. And by the time we got from Avila Beach, or just outside of Avila Beach, to the 126, I'll never forget, it was right by the McDonald's on the 126 in Fillmore.
Yeah.
We had literally come up I mean, we took it from here to here to here to here. And we decided we were just going to take steps to see what we could do to make that a reality. The second wave hadn't even broken out yet. Like that hadn't even happened yet.
Okay. So like summer of 2020, is that?
Was it summer of 2020, Benj?
I think it was even early spring. It was
Was
pretty,
it?
it was yeah. We were just getting out and about
Yeah.
and really just manifesting. You know, Jaime is definitely the smarter of us, of the two of us, for sure. And so not only
Lies.
was there's this, I mean, the way that from a business standpoint, you know, she was ready for a career change in her she'd been in the dental industry for nearly 30 years.
Well, and what it was for me too, and I'm sorry to interrupt you, Benj,
Yeah.
was we were in full PPE. So we were doing masks, we were doing all of the things, you know, and we were doing regulators, and I just couldn't do it. I mean,
Yeah.
I just couldn't do it. And that was 8 hours a day with, you know, an hour and a half for lunch here and there. But I mean, I was in full PPE from head to toe all day.
Oh,
I just
man. Wow.
couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't fathom a world where I couldn't do this, you know, and not
Yeah.
have I mean, I couldn't fathom. It was so uncomfortable. I was uncomfortable in my skin, emotionally, spiritually, physically, like, and what it did to the face. And it was just terrible. And no way I didn't want to live in a regulator all day for 8 hours, sometimes 10, 12 hours a day, you know, in a regulator all day. I just could not do it.
Yeah.
So
What she started talking to me about, which really impressed me, and I really started beginning admiring Jaime's intellect, was, you know, how do we look at the present circumstances, and what is a business that we could get into that is going to be severely impacted by this pandemic, looking ahead, you know, so forward looking, having that vision to look ahead into the future and try to figure out something more interesting and viable to get into. And so we both had all this experience practicing yoga on a personal level, and somehow the idea manifested, obviously the discussions with her mother, but also just because the yoga works, the national chains, the pandemic just devastated the yoga community. It was absolutely, you know,
it was really sad. I mean,
Yeah.
and the truth is, it's like, you know, when my mom and I were manifesting, it's like I knew if I was this broken, you know, we as human beings, we need connection for
Right.
so many years. And I think COVID changed that. The gyms and all of the bigger places, you know, it was about the individual journey. You go into the gym, you pop your hat on, you lift weights, you do the things, you know, and you pop your hat back on and you walk out of the gym. Well, here's the deal. COVID changed all that. I mean, that put us in complete isolation from the entire world. And we as human beings, we need connection. You know, we need that. We need a support system. It's primal. It's just who we are. And I knew, you know, coming out of COVID, if we ever got out of COVID, you know, people need community. You know, we need community. We need each other. It takes a village. You know, those sayings don't just fall by the wayside. And I think COVID gave everyone a unique opportunity to take a look at what was important to them.
You know, as you're describing this, a book comes to mind. I don't know if you're a David Brooks fan. I'm a huge David Brooks fan.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, we're our book club for the SCVBG.
Wait, we
shameless
have a book
plug.
club? Wait, why
Yes.
don't I know about the book club?
Oh,
How do I not know about the book club?
hello, because I'm shamelessly plugging it right now. We're
Okay.
actually our first book that we're reading. It's something new that we started this year. The first book that we're reading is his new book, the one that came out last fall, called How to Know a Person: The Art of Seeing Others Deeply and Being Deeply Seen. What I think is an antidote to one of the main diseases that infects our culture today.
Absolutely.
The fracturing, the fractionalization of our culture. But his prior book, the 2019 book that I was thinking of, The Second Mountain, and it just he describes he could do a chapter on you, because what the second mountain is. A lot of people have a great deal of success. The way you describe your 30 years or so, in the first part of your professional life, if you will, a lot of people experience success, their first mountain, you know, and their ambition, their drive, their heart, their work ethic, their intelligence, all of these talents come to bear, and they climb that first mountain. And in all of our lives, if you've lived a day, you know, or 1,000 years, all of us have experiences like you did with your mom that maybe knock us off the mountain, or we come down the mountain, we roll down the mountain. It could be divorce. It could be a death in the family. It could be a disease. It could be mental challenges, like we were describing for me before, mental health challenges before we hit record. Any number of things, financial disaster, like my family experienced between 2008 and 2015. But what happens is those talents are still there. Those virtues are still there, right?
Yeah.
And we climb a second mountain, but with the wisdom of the experience, right?
Well, I think for me, and I think for a lot of people, and you'll probably, I think both of you will agree with me, is here's the deal. A lot of us, some of us are more resilient than others. It's all about your limiting belief system and conditioning when you were growing up. But I mean, here's the truth for almost everybody. Pain, and I'm talking pain, is the touchstone of all spiritual growth. And here's the deal. You can either grow or you're going to stay stagnant, whatever that is. And you're just going to stay on that wheel, whatever that is, and seek that little bit of joy where you can, or you're going to, grow.
Yeah.
And for me, I knew I had hit a space in my life where it was like, okay, do I choose faith or do I choose fear?
Right. Right.
And I think fear is what stops a lot of us. A lot of us manifest these great ideas. How many times have we seen somebody come up with this great idea that they're making money or they're having some success with? And you're like, oh my God, that was my idea from 10 years ago. What the hell?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, here's the deal. It starts here, it moves here. We start talking about it and then we push it down, kind of to our heart. And this is where fear lives. And that's where a lot of those great manifestations is like, but you know what? I chose faith.
Yeah.
Nobody knew if the world was going to end. So you know what? I just pushed that down and boom, here we are. Took a second out on my house, in the middle of COVID. Who does that? People thought I was losing my mind because I was losing my mom and I had lost 3 pets and there was just a whole lot of loss happening in my life.
Right.
And for whatever reason, in that moment, in the amount of pain that I was in, I chose faith.
Yeah.
And I knew, and all I can tell you honestly is I had a calling. A lot of people don't really even understand what that is. And even though I did have some fear, it's like, I knew the greater good. I knew I just needed to put one foot in front of the other, do the next indicated thing, and that I was on the path. I was on a path. I didn't know what the path was, but I knew I was making good choices towards something that was going to benefit this community.
Right.
That's all my mom and I talked about, was benefiting this community. I've raised my kids here. I've got grandbabies here. There's in a place of Santa Clarita I haven't explored, and I wanted to do something wonderful for our community. And here we were. Okay, let's go. Let's do it. Yeah. And anytime I fell off the path, honest to God, because the second wave hadn't happened. The second wave broke out and all this fear started cropping up. And I thought, well, maybe it's just not a good, maybe this just isn't, what's going to happen. I kid you not, Corey, something would happen. I don't mean a minor coincidence where you could you can turn that into anything you want. Something big would happen. It was like, boom, get back on the path, Jaime.
Yeah.
Get back, stroke that check. Get back on the path. Just get back on the path. This is where your destiny lives. You know what? And you're going to help a lot of people. And this is where you need to be. And that's honestly, what happened. That's really what happened. It could have fallen on its butt coming out of, post-COVID. Who does brick and mortar at this level, coming out of COVID, everybody's running out of their retail spaces. I'm knocking on doors to get into a retail space.
Well, the expression, I started out as a stockbroker in 1990 nothing.
Woo!
And, if you can learn one thing, learn how to buy low and sell high. Too many of us do it the other way around. Y'all were buying low and selling, just building high, not just selling high. But so that's great. You both used a word that I want to ask you about, manifesting. What does it mean to manifest?
Ooh, I think for me, personally, is an awareness. It's sitting back for a moment. It's collecting my thoughts. It's, putting my heart and putting my energy, putting my intention, putting my motives, all on the table and seeing if something aligns with my soul. I think a lot of times we walk into things, with, either being money motivated or whatever the case may be, and you make choices. For me today, and I can just say that with experience, strength, and hope, I think experience has given me that. As I really have to, sit back. If I have a great idea, I got to go, okay, so what's that about? Where does that live? Where does that align? Like, where is that coming from? What are my motives behind that? Like, What's the greater good? And honestly, Corey, gates just swing wide open. Like if it's coming from a pure intentional, a pure space, I've never had a problem.
Yeah.
It's, that's always just, that door is always just swung right open for me, but I really have to be true to who I am and, really take a long, hard look at, why I'm doing the things I'm doing, or why I'm going to spend money, doing this, that, or the other, or a venture here and there. I mean, it's about service work for me. I mean, that's really my truth. Honestly, Thermal Horizons is service work, I think we were talking earlier when this is really uncomfortable for me. I am your biggest cheerleader.
I was just thinking that, Ben, before we got on, Jaime was saying, I'm not good at this. Jaime, you happen to be pretty good at this.
Am I? Okay.
Yeah. I have a tough question for you. Maybe not a tough question.
Okay, I'll do my best.
What were some of the hardest obstacles to overcome? Where Thermal Horizons is now, where you are, both of you are now, what are some of the biggest obstacles that you needed to overcome?
Fear of losing. Fear of this not working out. I think for me, it was probably a little bit different for Ben, but for me, because I knew I was building a legacy of wellness, I really wanted to build a legacy of wellness in my mom's honor. That was absolutely my core truth. And I think the fear of losing that, even now, I mean, I realize that, it's one day at a time, and you know what, you can't control people, places, or things, or economics, or any of those things. But I really wanted to build this legacy for my mom. And this was my process, in grieving for my mom and a whole lot of other things. This was my process. So yeah, fear, walking through fear, and every day it's waking up and choosing faith, choosing the idea that the universe is conspiring for me and not against me, to put one foot in front of the other and just do the next indicated thing. And honestly, the doors have swung wide open. Every single day we watch miracles walk through that door. And I think with what we do here in health and wellness and holistic healing modalities, anybody that's walking through that front door is seeking something.
Yeah.
It's not like the gym. It's a whole different thing. There's a lot of people walking here with loss, or, any plethora of different things going on. So, I mean, it's really inspiring, even on my worst days, when someone just happens to, walk through that door that's just lost their son, daughter, whatever the case may be, and I hand them a cup of tea and we have a few moments, so that, they can be valued. People just want to be seen. And it's, I get to wake up each and every day and be of service to my community in that way. Are you kidding me? I have been given the keys to the kingdom. This is the best thing. This is the best thing ever. I get to do what I love to do, and that what I'm genuinely passionate about are people, and history, and who are you,
So Ben,
Yeah.
I want to back up a little bit. Because I want to hear your story as well.
Yeah, thank you.
What brought you to this point? I want to know, because you obviously have a successful career as well. So how did you get from, all of your endeavors in the entertainment industry, stuff that you're still obviously involved with, to where I kind of lovingly but jokingly refer to you as Chief Enthusiast Officer? How did you get from there to here?
Well, gosh, this has been great. I really appreciate you, Corey, so much. And I love listening to Jaime. She is her natural enthusiasm for helping people and being of service and helping people find health and wellness is wonderful. Yes, I still dabble in the entertainment industry. I still do that full time. And with the wonders of remote working, it enables me to be fully present here at the studio as well at the same time. So it's amazing how the universe, Jaime talked about these twists of fate and these so-called coincidences that we experience here on a daily basis, which is really amazing. My present job as head of production at the visual effects company Alchemy X started on June 1st, 2020. And we opened up the studio on the same date on June 1st, 2020.
Oh, wow.
Is that crazy?
When I took the job, I didn't even know it was remote. And as soon as I found out, it was like amazing. Just one more coincidence that allowed us to be able to breathe a sigh of relief, because you walk into owning your own business and operating your own business. Well, there's two different levels. One is the personal level of owning and operating a business with your fiance. Two is just owning and operating a business in this new dynamic
Right.
world of a lot of questions and
So much uncertainty. Yeah.
So much.
Exactly. So it was one more time just a reaffirmation that we can walk in faith, and we can understand how that just have trust and faith that it's going to work out. We have made a commitment to each other to make sure that our primary focus always is the safety of our clientele, the safety of our members. And yoga in particular, being so service orientated, and also yoga requires such a sense of vulnerability, or a sense of ability to be vulnerable. And we are challenged with creating a space where every individual that walks through that door is given the opportunity to feel safe. Yeah. That it is the most important thing that we do. And more important, although we have this incredible schedule with nearly 70 classes a week, 7 days a week, it's an incredible operation that we put together. We don't, Jaime and I, we don't
half measure anything.
We don't half measure anything. We go big or go home. And that was always our motto, is to reach for the stars and to feel empowered every step of the way, to be given this incredible responsibility to hold this space for every individual that walks through the door. It's an honor and a privilege to be able to provide that for people, because there's so many different reasons to come to Thermal Horizons, Yoga and Wellness Center. And there are as many reasons as there are members, because every single individual that comes in here comes in with a different goal, a different need, a different challenge. Many of them are coming in for the physical challenge of yoga, which is definitely very real, but it also creates mental space and gives them time to sort things out, which in turn creates those two things combined, create a kind of a spiritual journey. So every person that comes in has their own personal journey. That's really fantastic. For myself personally, balancing all of these things together, to be honest with you, I don't know how I do it.
I don't either.
But it is. I loved what you were talking about with the second mountain. I've been in the entertainment industry for 34 years, and what Jaime and I both do, and we both have incredible experience. We got to know each other early on in our relationship, and we have we've developed almost intuitive abilities to how to manage people, because that's ultimately what we do, is we manage people. She was being an administrator in the dental field, and myself being an administrator and manager in the entertainment industry, working with creative people, working with people on a personal level. My entire career is really based on being of service and developing relationships. So both of our innate talents that we've developed over the last 3 decades of our lives come to play so naturally and so easily here at Thermal Horizons. So it really gave me the sense of confidence that this is someone who I want to spend the rest of my life with.
Yeah.
And that this is someone that I can do business with on a daily basis as well.
Right.
It definitely presents challenges. I'll tell you that, of course, because any relationship is difficult and has its challenges, but we've been very blessed to be able to work in this space.
So I have a question for both of you now, and I'm not sure, I didn't write it down this way. I usually ask it in a different way, but to me, a lot of the, if you played a song with all major chords, you could do that. But really, the blues has to be played with a bunch of minor chords. Mm-hmm. So when you get to the majors, they just sound that much brighter. Or in paintings, those deep darkness, the blacks bring out the light, of beautiful artwork, right? So I'm curious what your minor chords were that illuminates the light. Or I'm mixing metaphors now, but do you see what I'm asking?
I see what you're saying. And I think for me, I know where you're going, Corey, but I mean, as you're talking, this is what's spinning in my brain.
Sure.
is nature is the color of beautiful. That is honest to God. I think my minors are nature,
Mm,
truly Mother Nature,
right. Right.
honestly. Because
What,
it's about grounding. It's about, putting your feet in the earth. It's about the sun. It's about the five senses,
oh,
yeah,
that's
for me, I think
interesting.
it's
I didn't
wonderful.
think that's not where I thought you'd go with it. Okay. That's,
Okay.
no,
Did
that's
you want a
interesting.
song? I
No,
can
no,
give you a
no, no.
song.
No, that's interesting. What about you, Ben? What are your minor chords, or what are your darker shades that brought you to here, that brought you to the brightness and lightness of here?
Oh my gosh. Having clarity, developing clarity through pain, through circumstance, through a lot of the things that you discussed earlier, Corey, going through divorce, major job losses, all the things that, well, is life. And just like what Jaime talked about earlier, it's something that you can either stay in the same repetitive patterns for the rest of your life or be courageous, and I use that term loosely, but have the humility to
Mm,
really look at yourself and the decisions you've made and how to find out what the common denominator is, which is usually me. And so having to have the courage to really look, and every single day, because we have a chance every single day to reevaluate our present circumstances and the choices we make. And it's either going to be something that walks towards being kind and loving and supportive, or something that is counter to that. And so embracing those, not shutting the door on them, looking at past decisions, and business wise as well, of course. I mean, throughout your whole life, where you get to choose, and the reasons you've made the choose. For instance, when I was a younger person in the entertainment industry, I was full of fear and full of insecurities, and constantly making decisions based on what I thought the establishment wanted me to do, or what I felt needed to be done. And I would manage people based on fear and try to encourage people through the perspective of the fear that I felt internally. And it was successful in terms of the end product and getting things done in a quick manner, and doing those things, but it was very controlling and micromanaging. And that period in my career was very unsatisfying, without many personal rewards, because when you're in that place of chronic underachievement, that no matter how much success you have, no matter how much money you make and all those things, there's never enough, because you're trying to fill a vacuum and a void inside of you that really can't be filled from those temporal goals and those kind of measurements by which I was measuring myself in those days. And I walked away from a lot of those experiences feeling very empty, and feeling like all the work that I had put in wasn't effective. When the fact was is that uh, I was just coming at it from the wrong approach. I wasn't coming at it from a genuine place, because I was making believe almost every day and trying to pretend to be something that I really wasn't. And through all of these experiences, I've developed a foundation that allows me to be just me, and okay with that, and respect and value all of those experiences, because I couldn't be where I'm at today without having all of those experiences and failures, and uh, quote unquote failures.
So let me ask you a related question. If you were
Sure.
talking to the Jaime of 10 years ago, or the Ben of 10, 15 years ago,
Mm.
what is something that, if you could have done it over again, that you would do differently?
Go, Jaime.
Me. Well, Ben and I have known each other. I mean, here's the
Yes.
deal about Ben and I. Like, we might only be engaged for 3 years, but Ben and I have known each other for like 25 years. Ben was
Mm,
friends with my mom. So like, I've known Ben. He was married, I was married, and so on and so forth. So I don't know. The Jaime of 10 years ago, my perspectives would have been different. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, for me, I think, you build a life. And sometimes people don't stay spiritually well, and then you stay in that situation or a job or whatever the case may be. And then it becomes the drill of what's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think eventually you get to a point when you're in enough pain, where you either stay stagnant in that pain, whatever that looks like, or you grow.
Did we ever, so do you want to answer that, Ben? Because I have a story. Remind me to tell the story about the dog on the porch.
I'll remind you of your story. Because I've often, it's almost impossible to not be a human being and to have any maturity to not look back at your life and, God, I wish I had done this that way, or I wish I had done that way, or this way, that way. But I honestly have gotten to the point in my life today where I value and appreciate every bad decision and every bad situation I've been in through, because this is exactly who I have to have, that perspective to value the things that I experience today. It's really important that I not beat myself up or delve into morbid reflection or regret over things, because I honestly look back and I'm a very because of a lot of coping mechanisms that I developed through trauma in my childhood and things like that. I'm really well thought out and very careful in for the most part in the decisions that I make. And so it's really it's important for me to recognize and give myself some grace and some self-forgiveness to understand that I really did do the best I could through those situations. And I had to take those paths to their very end to be able to truly appreciate the decision I've made to live on the current path I'm walking.
That's an interesting
hot tin roof.
Yeah. Oh, I'm a tennis. Don't get me started on Tennessee Williams. Yes, I have tricks in my pocket. I have things up my sleeve, but I am the opposite of a stage magician. I could go on. Anyway, so here's my story about the dog on the porch. So it's in acres and acres of night, right? In Iowa, central Iowa. And there's a neighbor in that part of Iowa. The neighbors are about a mile apart. But one farmer, he has a dog on his porch and he's howling and howling. And the dog just keeps on howling to the point where that neighbor who's a mile away the dog's bothering him. It just keeps on howling. So he marches about a mile away to his neighbor's house where the dog's on the porch, and that dog is just howling. Knocks on the door, and his neighbor comes out and he says, "Don't you hear your dog? Your dog's howling. I heard it a mile away. Don't you hear your dog?" "Yeah, I hear the dog." "Well, what's wrong with him? Why is he howling?" And the farmer whose dog it was said, "Well, he's sitting on a nail about that long."
Oh my God.
And his neighbor said, "Well, he's sitting on a nail and he's bothering him. He's howling and howling. Why doesn't he get up?" And the farmer whose dog it was said, "Well, I guess it doesn't hurt quite enough."
What?
So you're with the way you're describing it, Ben, I was thinking, regrets. I have a few, so I do. I like everybody says no regrets. No, I got regrets. But as you're describing it, things that happened that weren't optimal at the time, or were hard to go through at the time. Mm-hmm. I'm grateful for them, or as you're describing it, being appreciative of, because you needed to go through that in order to get to where you are now. So having a gratefulness for all of those experiences, even if I still, because listen, I'm a Jew from Jersey of New York and Eastern European stock. We're going to have regrets. We couldn't make chicken soup if we didn't have some regrets, but at least we can be grateful for those regrets. So that it brought us here. It brought us to the new world, from the old country to where we are now. So sorry, I went on my stories. So go ahead.
If I can just add one more thing, I mean, it's so important to have that authenticity and to develop a true, rigorous honesty with yourself in the way that you look at the world. Jaime and I both committed to each other to always, I mean, that's the foundation. If you don't have honesty and clear communication with each other, then you have nothing. Then you're living in a fantasy world. And in a real business sense, that's absolutely critical as well. We are constantly evaluating the services we provide, the level, the revenue, the money decisions. This is a large operation, and it requires that consistency for us to be able to evaluate are we doing the best job we can for our clients? Are we reaching a satisfaction level that's really appropriate? And how does those metrics fit in with our spiritual goals? Because we come from a very kind of what most would sense of an obtuse sense of reality in terms of what we're providing here and what we're committed to from a moral sense and from an ethics sense. And we have to stay focused on, again, it all goes down to maintaining that culture of safety for our clientele, because we're holding
and a culture of kindness.
Yes.
You know, I think the world we live in is, I mean, it's harsh out there. It's a slippery slope out there, man.
Yeah.
But I think when you walk in here, you know, my mantra is simply this: leave your baggage at the door, your box of rocks, your bag of swords. You know, it ain't going anywhere. It's waiting for you out there. But while you're here, you've reserved this time for you. So it's about, you know, looking in. It's about self-discovery. It's about awareness. It's like, you know, this wakes up before we've even had our first conscious thought. This is already going. It's already happening. Before we even had a sip of coffee, it's going. What's the first thing we usually do?
Oh, check the notification.
And we stay at that perpetual state of motion. We don't even realize we're doing it anymore. We just stay at that perpetual state of motion and anxiety and stress 365 days of the year.
Yeah.
24 hours a day. And what this space allows you to do is leave it, even if it's just for an hour, and come and be present. What time is it now? Where are you here? You know, what does that look like?
Right.
You know, we've become mini computers where we've learned how to compartmentalize everything so well now. We just shove it on down. We just shove it on down some more. And this gives you the ability here in what we do here, whether it be, you know, a guided meditation class, an iRest, you know, a gentle movement class, a restoratives class, a vinyasa flow, you know, bar. It doesn't matter what it is. I mean, anything here is right here, right now. Right here, right now. And a lot of people don't even know what to do with that. People walk in here and they take, you know, a meditation class. A lot of people will get up and walk out of the class. And if I'm sitting up at the front, they're like, I just can't lay there. Like, I just can't, I can't turn it off. Like it just won't go on. So, well, that's because you need to come back and you need to continue.
It takes practice.
It takes practice, you know, and things that make you the most uncomfortable, you probably might want to take a look at, you know, why that is.
But also giving yourself permission. That's one thing I've learned in meditation is the thoughts are going to enter in, and they're going to enter in and again and again and again. And every time, all you can do is just say, "Oh, hello, thought."
Yeah, grace, 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 grace. Offer yourself grace. Yep.
And let it pass. Let it pass, and then get back to breathing.
Yep.
Just breathe. Do you have any questions for me,
Corey? What's your history?
Oh. Boy.
What brought you to doing podcasts? This is so informative. Like,
well, actually,
you know what? Honestly, this is a beautiful platform. I didn't think I'd be as comfortable as I am right now.
Oh, I'm so glad.
Yeah.
Well, so that is a good question. You're like, I know it's a good question. I just asked it. But it is an important question to share. I was reading The Second Mountain because it was symbiosis. What like it was sovereign in a way that I was reading it at that time because we were entering into COVID. I was also at a point in my life when I knew that I had climbed mountains and I'd gotten knocked off of mountains and I'd tried to climb back up again. So getting clarity on what I had to offer, like why I was here, what different gifts I had.
The purpose.
It's not just the purpose. It's like, what unique tools do I have to bring to the party, right? Mm-hmm. So I was thinking about that, but I was also thinking about like, I was good at that, but I freaking hated it, you know? Right. So what is it that I can take what I do well, take what I can offer up to my loved ones and my community, but do something that at that point, whatever it was, 47 years, come to believe that this is a need that I can help to address, that this is something I believe in the virtues of. that I can offer something uniquely, but within the context of the community, right? Like great jazz music, the piano player's offering something, and he's bringing his virtuosity to a whole other level. If he's jamming with the bass player who's in a groove with the percussionist, they're all individually virtuosos, but they're all following a score, right? So that's what I was thinking about, like, who am I in that trio or that band or that orchestra or whatever? And what can I uniquely offer up? And what is the score that we can all follow through on? So I have producing experience from producing theater in New York, theater and film out here. I'm a business person. I've started, 3 different businesses now and a nonprofit. So I knew I could do that. But what do I believe in? What are some sicknesses or some symptoms that I can address? And one of them is about, our flagship program. It's being able to talk about important stuff, but without killing each other over it,
Yeah.
Others is just sharing stories. Who are we? Who's in our community? It's not just like our brand, but there's a human being and human beings behind that brand and the community that you're building. I want to share those stories. If we can humanize each other, we can get over this idea of like, oh, them, those people, these, like we can get over that. And all of a sudden we're remembering each other, bringing and literally like remembering instead of dismembering and you're getting me on a, now you got me on a pulpit.
No, I love it. I love all of that because I think corporate America changed a lot of things, for us brick and mortar, small business people that do, have, a moral code.
Yeah.
It's not just about, you're not just a name and you're not just a number and you're not just a figure, here you are valued, you are seen.
Yeah.
And we've been missing that in society for a really long time. And I think COVID, changed a lot of things for a lot of people. We were all in the rat race. We were all just doing I it's off to work I go, do it. We were all there just doing the things. Then COVID, boom, and for those of us that, had a moment to step back and had a moment of clarity and really took pause, I had things going on in my life that I was like, okay, let me take a look. What do I value?
Yeah.
What's important to me?
That's a second mountain, baby. That's a second mountain right there. Yeah. Just having that clarity of what's important and a sense of purpose and meaning, like you're saying.
Yeah.
So before we wrap up, how can folks follow you, find more information about Thermal Horizons and all the great work that y'all are doing?
Go ahead, Ben. This is where Ben excels. You get it, Benji.
I don't know about that, but we obviously have a website, but like any good business does, thermalhorizons.com. We are on Instagram at Thermal Horizons, and pretty much search for Thermal Horizons in any of the major outlets. We also have a wonderful app that you can find on the App Store or Google Play, Play Store. And look up Thermal Horizons anywhere that you consume media. We do have an amazing online presence where we're sharing the message of help and healing and support and kindness. And you can find that every day there. And come by us here in Central Valencia at Grand.
Central Valencia. We're in the heart of Valencia, babe.
There you go, babe.
I think
in the heart of Valencia up in here.
They reoriented where the center of Valencia is, but once you set up shop there, that's the center of Valencia. It's like the North Star. We decided where the center is. It's wherever you are, wherever Thermal Horizons is.
Corey, we got so many more stories, and I'd love to do this again. Honestly, this was wonderful and a great experience. And
it'll be fun. It'll be
anytime.
fun. Is there anything important you want to add that we didn't cover? We covered a lot today, but is there anything important you want to add before we close up?
Gosh,
just on it. I think honestly, and it's probably not. I think if you are looking for a place to heal, a place to just have a moment's pause or a moment's reflection, come see our Healing Haven. It's absolutely beautiful here. And if you're on the wrong side, there are actually quite a few other places, and they're not gyms here in Santa Clarita. Just suit up, show up, and just roll out your mat and see what happens. It's,
and breathe. It really is a beautiful
breathe. You know,
space.
people don't realize pranayama. We don't breathe. We've forgotten how to breathe. We just hold our breath all day.
Yeah.
You know, then take a big breath. You know, if we all had a good breath work practice, that's why we do kids yoga here. The very first piece of equipment I bought for thermal was children's yoga straps. Want to know why? Because I wanted to plant the seed and save these little ones the aggravation and the grief that we've gone through. You know, teach them a good breath work practice, teach them a good mindfulness practice. You know, it's huge. Breathe, people, breathe. Everybody take a moment right now, right here. If you're watching this podcast right now, deep breath in. Let's downregulate. Pause at the top of the breath. Audible sigh. Let it out. Activate that parasympathetic nervous system and rest and digest. Then start your day.
Amen. Amen.
Corey, thank you so much for this experience. You know, Jaime touched on it a little bit earlier in our, I don't know if you call this an interview or a conversation or discussion. You know, there were so many instances and so many things that happened over the course of us developing this business together and developing this bond and relationship with each other. She touched on it a little briefly earlier that, in fact, I knew Jaime's mother, Joanne, many years ago. And she and I were very close. We actually worked for a nonprofit that I helped found, and she was the manager of it. Joanne had just retired from the post office. And so she needed something to do and loved helping people out. And so I was introduced to her, and she and I became very close. And this was long before I even knew who Jaime was. And so we worked together for almost 9 years, speaking every other day on the phone and communicating, and became buddies.
Wow.
Yeah. And so soon, then that, as nonprofits do, it changed leadership, it changed direction. And so we ended up seeing each other occasionally but just going on our own merry way. And flash forward, you know, to COVID and everything like that, Jaime and I met and fell in love. And I was reintroduced to Joanne, and she became a big part of my life again. One, she was a great cheerleader for me. She helped me have an in with Jaime, which was much appreciated. But the fact is that I got to get back and be a big part of Joanne's life, someone who was so important to me and meant so much to me and was really a close, dear friend. The fact that she came back into my life was amazing in and of itself. And it was really such a bonus and, you know, such a wonderful gift that I got to fall in love with Jaime through the process. But then also it was the final days of Joanne's life and that whole universal shift. And for that synchronicity or that coincidence to take place, for me to be able to be there. And, you know, she fell as we opened up the studio and we're devoting our entire lives, everything that we had, all of our energies and everything to establishing the business. Within the first 2 or 3 months, unfortunately, Joanne took a turn for the worse. And we were met with one of our very first major challenges of how to balance the care for Joanne that she so desperately deserved and still function and in support of the business. And we just took it one day at a time and walked through it as best we can. But I was gifted with, and it was such a precious gift to get to spend the last remaining days of Joanne's life together, caring for her and being there for her. And it was such an honor to watch Jaime's journey with saying goodbye to her mother and me getting the opportunity to say goodbye in such a caring and loving way to someone who I cared for so tremendously. And that's the kind of stuff you can't write this stuff, right? You can't make this stuff up. It was such a blessing to walk through that journey with her and with Jaime.
And you know what you're reminding me of, Ben, too, is like, I'll never forget. I knew my mom was gone. It's funny you said that. And we had just opened, and there's so much going on, and my mom's transitioning. And if you've ever had to be with somebody that's transitioning and deal with air hunger and everything that goes on with somebody with cancer, it's excruciating. And when my mom passed, I sat up in bed, and I kid you not, Corey, this is going to sound insane, but when I sat up in bed, it's almost, and when I swallowed, it's like, the only thing I can tell you, it was like warm hot chocolate going down my throat.
Mm.
And I knew in that moment that everything was going to be okay. I knew that Thermal was going to thrive. I just knew everything was going to be okay. In that moment, when my mom left this earth, I knew that everything we had done here, there was a purpose behind it, and I knew everything was going to be okay. And here we are 2 years later, thriving. It's funny.
Yeah.
It's funny you brought that. Why are you going to make me cry, Ben? I'm trying to this whole thing.
Ben.
Well, that's
Jeez, Ben.
this is real life. This is not a dress
real.
rehearsal, and so seemingly what seemed to be one of the darkest chapters of our lives turned out to be one of the brightest spots and most glorious memories. And typically,
Yep.
in those situations, it gives me courage and faith to continue taking the steps forward, however that manifests, is just keep moving forward.
Every
Talk
day
about
is a
minor
gift,
keys, man. Talk
Yeah.
about those minor keys. So, well, I appreciate that. Thank you guys again for doing this. This is really meaningful. I appreciate you and this extra time that we're spending together. So,
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you, Corey.
Thank you, Corey.
I love this. This is fun. We gotta hang out now.
I know we do.
We do hang out like in business settings and stuff, but and I've obviously been to the space, and Miss Lisa loves going to you. Even though she's flying all the time and she could barely get over there as nearly as much as she wants to. That's my lovely bride. But I so appreciate you guys, and it's great talking to you. So thanks for doing this.
Mwah.
All right. And as always, please follow, rate, write that review wherever you get your podcasts. It really does help us in the rankings and get the stories of folks like Jaime and Ben and Thermal Horizons out. You've been listening to the SCV Business Podcast, the voice of business. So you can follow me on Threads, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, a lot of the socials. I am at Corey S. Nathan, at Corey, S as in Sam, Nathan, at Corey S. Nathan. Thanks again for joining us. We'll see you next time on the Voices of Business.